Welcome into Full Count Detroit, your one-stop shop for everything Detroit Tigers. Today we are talking two different player deep dives, an MLB draft preview and who the Tigers might go with at number 24, and then after that we'll have a little bit of a series preview as the Tigers take on the Seattle Mariners with amazing pitching matchups. Scuba Mize and Flaherty to go for the Detroit Tigers. News of the day, Mize is an all-star. The guy is getting it done, and he is one of the player deep dives we'll go into. But before that, we'll have the AL Central wraparound. And in the AL Central, there is some intriguing matchups this weekend. The Kansas City Royals will start a three-game series versus the New York Mets. The Twins lost 8-1. They were one of the only teams in action in the AL Central last night. The White Sox and Guardians were supposed to be, but they'll be postponed. We'll get into that in a second. But Twins lost 8-1. Pete Crow Armstrong with two home runs. The Twins will begin a series versus the Pirates, who, as you know, just got swept by Kansas City. We talked about them all week long. And then, like I said, the White Sox and Guardians to start a four-game series, supposedly yesterday, but got postponed. So we'll have a doubleheader today. There's multiple, teams here, but this could be an important weekend, especially a team like the Twins. If the Twins don't get it done first, the Pirates, you're going to have a guy like Julio Duran. Is he going to get traded? Buxton, Correa, those are guys who probably don't get traded, but they could be on the chopping block. But also some other guys around that team, could get traded, some key role guys. Same thing with the Royals. What direction do the Royals want to go? You have a great Chris Bubik, who's pitching amazing right now. Seth Lugo was really good last year. He's having a solid season so far this year. But those are two teams, including the Guardians, who are really, are you going to move on from Kwan? Are you going to move on from Emmanuel Clase? Those are two options that really, right now, the Phillies are a team who's emerging. Rumors this morning from Jeff Passan that the Phillies want to go in for a controlled reliever, and Class A is a team controlled reliever, and Class A would fall under that bill. But the Phillies are a team we know who is able to spend money and willing to spend money, and they always will be willing to spend money as long as they're under the same ownership. But the Phillies, yeah, they're a team that's going to go out and they're going to acquire a lot of relievers, and that's going to make that reliever market competitive, which is what the Detroit Tigers are going to want to go out, and they're going to want to go out and get some relievers. But a thing the Tigers are not struggling with is pitching staff, the starting pitchers, I should say. Mize is our deep dive, one of them today. The 101, he has found his stuff finally. Had flashes in 2021 with a 3.91 ERA, but Tommy John set him back. Technically, he doesn't qualify for ERA or WHIP right now. He's 9-2, which would be fifth, or he's fifth in the league for wins, which he does technically qualify for that. But he's tied for 13th with a 2.63 ERA, a 1.18 WHIP, which is tied for 30th. He's on pace to start 26 games and pitch 146 innings, which would both be the second most in his career behind that 2021 season. But Mize, really good season so far this year. He's come out and he's been really dominant, finding his stuff. He started the season as that fifth guy, kind of, is it going to work out? Is it really, something's got to happen for it to click, but obviously it has clicked right away. The first round draft pick out of Auburn, or the first overall draft pick out of Auburn, he's really been strutting his stuff out there, showing, what he's all about, and he's really just had some dominant pitches, going from a different pitch mix, mixing it up. He's been really great. Another guy who we're going to deep dive in today, Colt Keith. And this is one that I'm going to go really in depth, or not really in depth, but a little bit more in depth than the Mize. Colt Keith, the left-handed hitter, all of his home runs come from the left side. He's got 8 home runs this season. He's got a 271 average, 30 RBIs with even 800 OPS. Okay, those are solid stats for a guy like Colt Keith, nothing insane. He's coming in, he's just playing pretty solid right now. There's nothing, really amazing about what he's doing right now. He's just coming in, or not right now, but on the season, he's doing and just playing really good baseball. Colt Keith getting by, hitting the ball, he's hitting a couple home runs here and there. Let's talk about the last 30 games. 326 average, 389 OBP, 547 slugging. His OP or his WRC plus since June 26th is 251. That puts him at 151% better than the average hitter at creating runs. That's what it is. It's weighted runs created plus, which puts it in the runs you create, which, runs you score, RBIs, that sort of stuff, into a plus metric, which is factors in ballpark and all that sort of stuff. Really more of an advanced metric that's really starting to get used right now, and it is really able to tell who is the best hitters in baseball. And he's up there, Michael Busch of the Cubs has been really good recently. Aaron Judge's been really good. Riley Green, I think, or Spencer Torkelson was up there, and then Zach McKinstry was up there as well in the top 10. I think McKinstry was about 10, and then Spencer Torkelson was 7. But a 251 WRC plus, it's really great, and the things Colt Keith has done in the last 30 games has been amazing. But the things he's done in the last 15 days, different from games, 436 average. That is number one in the Major League of Baseball. Major League Baseball. That is number one, a 436 average. A 477 OBP. That ranks him fourth in the MLB. A 740 or a 744 slugging puts him sixth in the MLB. A 1.221 OPS puts him fifth in the entire MLB. He has 17 hits in the last 15 days. That puts him at 10th in the entire MLB. Colt Keith is playing phenomenal baseball right now. He has found that slot. We've been talking about him a little bit more recently, but he's found that slot. He is hitting leadoff. I think he hit leadoff in all of these games last week. And that's something you're going to look at going forward, is going past the All-Star break, and not only just this weekend, but like I said, past the All-Star break. If you can find that bona fide leadoff hitter, I mean, he's not great versus lefties. He's not good at all versus lefties, I should say that. He's serviceable. You could say he's serviceable, but versus righties, he's mashing the ball. We'll get into his stats versus righties later when we talk about the Mariners. But he's a serviceable player versus both sides. Don't get me wrong. Zach McKinstry obviously would play third base over him. Who's going to play second base? Probably Glaber. And then, first base is Torkelson, but DH is always open. And that's an opportunity, if you're facing a lefty, it's probably end up being Jahmai Jones, just because that outfield Green's probably an everyday player at this point. Matt Vierling gets tossed in that position. And then that right field is kind of open, or I guess right field, you could switch Green and Meadows. Those are two guys. If Meadows can step it over his lefties, he's a guy who can play every day. Same thing with Colt Keith, though. He can play every day, be that DH. But really, that's the thing, is versus lefties, is the Tigers have to find that bona fide outfielder and that bona fide DH. Right now, you don't have it with Kerry Carpenter because he's a guy who can play both, and then you set up the lineup the rest of the way. And obviously, you can play lefty-lefty. It's not against the rules. But, Colt Keith struggles against lefties, and as well does Parker Meadows. Meadows has really got to figure it out, though, as of recently. But Colt Keith, like I said, playing amazing ball right now, really helping out this Detroit Tigers team. We'll switch it over to the MLB draft. The MLB draft is on Sunday at 6 p.m. on MLB Network and ESPN. The Tigers have pick number 24 and pick number 34 in the first round. We'll get into why the first round goes a little bit past that. The competitive balance picks, I'll explain that. All picks that are so they're you got the 28 picks in that, or 27 picks in that first round. 28th pick is the Kansas City Royals for having Bobby Witt, who's a guy inside their own organization that finished top 3 in an award. And then you have it was also like a top first round pick, I think you have to be as well. And then the Yankees, Mets, and Dodgers all have to have a 10 pick subtraction. You have to go back, a 10 pick penalty. You have to go back for exceeding the surcharge, which is of the competitive balance tax, So their picks occur in the competitive balance round A, which is where the Tigers would have a pick right now. They also pick 24 and 34. So you either have 10 of the smallest markets or 10 of the smallest revenue pools, and you receive an additional pick at the end of the first round or second round. The groups of teams alternate between 2 rounds each year. The competitive balance picks may be traded and are not subject for being forfeited. However, competitive balance picks acquired by another club in a trade are subject to being forfeited. A lot there. I explained it, not as great as I could have. But basically, if you either have the 10 smallest revenue pool or the 10 smallest markets, those two flip-flop each year for competitive A and competitive B. Right now, I don't know which one we're on right now, but the Tigers end up with pick number 34. Whole lot. Very complex as the MLB draft. A lot of things in the MLB are very complex. But let's get into who the Tigers can take at 24. I've got 11 options on here. I'll just name them off right now. We got Steele Hall, Daniel Pierce, Kason Cunningham, Cruz Schoolcraft, Gavin Keelan, Gavin Feen, Gage Wood, Slater Dubrun, Xavier Neans, Josh Hammond, Sean Gamble, and then Devin Taylor. We'll start from the top with our number 12, the MLB ranking number 12, Steely Hall. This is a guy out of Hewittville, Trustville, Alabama. He's an explosive athlete. He's got 80 grade speed, a strong chance to stick to shortstop just because he's so fast. Great arm strength and actions, reactions, all that sort of stuff. Solid defender, like I just said. He's got upside to be across the board. Offensively, he shows a quick right-handed swing in batting practice, but in games, he tends to be a free swinger and get long on that. Struggles to hit that off-speed stuff, but if he can get strength and a better approach, he could average 15 home runs a year. Right now, he's committed to Tennessee. Um, Shortstop out of Alabama, righty. He's 17 years old, 6 foot, 180 pounds. He has a 50 grade hit, 45 on his power, 70 run, like we talked about. We talked about the 80 potential. And then on his arm, he's a 55. Fielding is a 60. Overall, 55. Steely Hall is one of those options for the Detroit Tigers at 24. Another one is Daniel Pierce, who's definitely got a higher chance of dropping than I would say Steele Hall does. But Pierce is a polished hitter. He's got that 55 grade hit, and he's got a 45 power, obviously the same as Steele Hall. 60 run, 55 arm, 55 field, 55 overall. 18 years old, 6 foot, 185 pounds, out of Mill Creek, Georgia. He is committed to Georgia. He's a polished hitter with a quick right-handed swing. He's got line drive approach to all fields. Controls the zone well. Doesn't really overswing. Also has 15 plus or 15 homer upside if he adds strength as well as, like I talked about, Steele Hall. Very plus runner, obviously not as fast as Hall. Solid instincts, smooth actions at shortstop, strong arm. These are both two very comparable prospects that Pierce has a higher chance of falling. Steele is only 17 years old. He's a lot faster than Pierce. Not a lot, but he's faster than Pierce. They both have very plus speed. A little bit better of a fielder Hall is, but Pierce kind of makes up for it with his contact and his hitting. Both have very similar power numbers. Both have very good arms, around the same, around 55. Both 55 overall on that MLB grading scale. Another guy, we'll get into Casey Cunningham out of Johnson, Texas. He's the thing with him is he's 19 years old compared to all the other high school prospects. He's one of the older ones. He's 5'10", 182 pounds. He's got pretty good hitting right now. He's the number 14th in the MLB rankings. Shortstop, bats lefty, throws righty. But he's one of the best pure hitters in this high school class, in this prep class. He's a lefty bat with elite barrel control, hardly ever swings and misses. He hits it to all fields, super mature approach. He's got plus speed, a high motor on the bases. A lot of scouts really think he's going to make that move to second base. Just, that arm it's okay, but his range and that sort of stuff versus the shortstop spot, second base fits him more. He's also a smaller player. He's got good, like I said, he's got the good speed, the good contact, but he could grow into a 15, 20 home run hitter. He's got some big honors, Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Texas, USA's Baseball Player of the Year. He led Team USA last year in hitting, but if he doesn't sign his first round, he's committed to Texas and then would be eligible again in 2027. He's also an option, but if you're picking for those first three guys that I talked about, Hall, Pierce, and Cunningham, Hall is 17 years old, Pierce is 18 years old, Cunningham's 19 years old. Those are all guys that age is a huge thing in this type of thing, and when you're picking 24th overall, the Tigers probably aren't going to have the chance to draft Hall. The odds of drafting Pierce, they probably have the highest odds out of all those three, as Pierce is the highest to fall, and then Cunningham right there as well. He would fall just because of that age. He's a really good player, but that age is something that obviously you can't really control that, but it's something that a lot of teams are going to look into. Cruz Schoolcraft, another high school bat and pitcher. He's more of a pitcher. He'll probably be in the MLB, but he's 6'8" at 18 years old out of Sunset, Oregon. He reclassified. He was supposed to be in next year's draft. He's got a 60 on his fastball, 60 slider, 55 changeup, 50 control, and a 55 overall. But like I said, 6'8". He throws 97 miles per hour with his fastball. Low 80s on his sinker. A strong feel for the changeup. He's 6'8", but he's got really good control over his body. The two-way standout, like I said, big time upside on the mound. At the plate, he's a solid hitter with above average power potential, athleticism at first base. His bat's intriguing, but his arm is definitely what's making him a first round talent. Another guy who is, all these guys are first round talents, but a guy, we'll go to our first college bat, Gavin Keelan. The Tigers probably don't go college bat, would be my guess. They've really taken the high school approach the last couple of years, and that's really what has benefited them and helped them out. Trying to think. So you had Max Clark and then Kevin McGonigal 2 years ago, and then last year went with Bryce Rayner. The year before that, I believe it was Jace Jung would have been that 2022 class. So not a college bat drafted since Jace Jung. This could be the first one with Gavin Keelan. 21 ranked prospect on MLB.com. He's a second baseman out of Tennessee. He's a lefty hitter, righty thrower. He's 21 years old, 5'11", 187 pounds, 60 grade hitting, 45 grade power, 50 grade on his running, 50 on his arm, 55 fielding, and a 55 overall. He's one of the most consistent hitters in college, let alone just the SEC. He is one of the best guys out of that transfer portal. He was at Louisville for a little while, transferred, boosted his OPS as a sophomore, and then was able to transfer to Tennessee. And he's easily one of the best bats in this draft class. One of the best, if not the best hitter out of the SEC. Quick left-handed swing, great eye coordination, and rarely misses. A little bit too aggressive chasing breaking balls, not walking a whole lot. He's added a little bit of power recently, but probably around an average long-term hitter. Defensively, pretty great at second base, solid instincts. A player comp that he's drawn from a lot of people is Gavin Lux with his style of play. Lux was a higher tier prospect with the Dodgers. Now got traded for can't remember who he got traded for, but the guy he got traded for is mashing. He has the like third most home runs. It's Mike something. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he has a chance to be good. But let's stay on focus here. Gavin Feen, our next guy. He's a younger brother of Dylan Feen, who was drafted by the A's last year, and one of the late, I think somewhere between the sixth and eighth round. But he's one of the top prep hitters in the 2020. Dylan Feen was. Um, Now, Gavin Feen, his brother, 50 hitting, 55 power, 50 run, 55 arm, 50 field, overall 50. One of the most balanced high school players you'll see. Third baseman out of Great Oak, California. He's committed to Texas along with Cunningham, but a 6'3" righty with a big bat speed, growing power. He struggled a little bit in the spring with his timing, but if he can tune that up in this minor league season, he should be fine. It's hard to say how many of these guys really go out. We saw Bryce Rayner didn't play last season. He's playing this season with dislocated shoulder though, but had a really great season. Our first college arm on this one is Arkansas's Gage Wood. He showed why he's a top pitching prospect. He's probably got, these late tier guys. If you've heard of any of these guys, you've probably heard of him. He had a no-hitter with 19 strikeouts in the College World Series. Nearly perfect. Nearly. He throws about a 94 to 98 mile per hour fastball with great movement. Low release point, which generates a ton of swing and misses. It's so hard. We talked about, Jacob Lopez a couple weeks back had a really tough arm slot to hit out of for the Tigers as a lefty. Gage Wood, though, is a righty. He's got really low walk rate, just 5 over the last 2 seasons. Great command, like I talked about. Power curveball with good potential. His slider and changeup, not as developed. It's really hard to see if he'll go and continue with those. But he's got a 70 grade on that fastball, at 55 on a slider, and a 45 on a slider and his changeup, 55 control, and a 50 power. He was a little bit hurt at the beginning of the season, missed the first 2 months. His shoulder remains a question, but he has the stuff, and he's throwing strikes. Talked about that 70 grade fastball. There's not a whole lot of guys who come out with a 70 grade fastball. We'll go to another high school bat, our next 3 high school bats, our next 4 are high school bats. Slater Dubrun out of Summit, Oregon, 18 years old, 5'10", 187 pounds, outfielder, and he hits and throws left-handed. 55 power, 45, or 50, 55 hit, 45 power, 65 run, arm is a 50, fielding is a 60, and then an overall 50. Undersized outfielder, but he's highly skilled from the Pacific Northwest. Very similar to a guy drafted a couple years ago, Corbin Carroll, both out of the Pacific Northwest, and both undersized outfielders. Dubrun had great outings out the perfect game and Team USA's U18 squad. Great for both those teams. Known for his advanced bat-to-ball skills and great plate discipline. He's focusing on getting on base while also using above-average speed to cause problems on the base. And we know how big of a problem speed can be in the MLB. Well, he's not a great power hitter. He showed physically that he can hit home runs and he can hit with power, but he's really driving the ball out there defensively. He's really great. Plus, and he's a top tier center fielder. Huge bright future. There's another guy who's causing speed with his. I would say it's very similar to a Max Clark. Max Clark, yeah, they're kind of drawing a little bit of similarities there. Clark has a great run. Really solid hitter right now, Max Clark is, and great feeling Clark has. Third baseman out of Mount Vernon, Washington, Xavier Neans, number 25 on MLB's top 250. 18 years old, 6'4", 210. 50 hit, 65 power. That's the highest power we've seen so far. 45 run, 60 arm, and 50 fielding. This is a guy who's really similar to a guy like Austin Riley of the Braves. Left-handed hitter with a mature approach, emerging as a superstar power to all fields. He made the swing adjustment and added leverage, but his swing and miss rate rose during the summer of last year, leading to some ups and downs this spring. But he's 6'4". He's pitched a little. He can throw up to 95 on the mound. Committed to Oregon State, but like I said, he's drawing those comps to Austin Riley. Our next guy is Josh Hamm, who's got raw power from the right side with bat speed and strength. He could easily get to that 20 to 25 home runs, maybe a little bit more if he can figure out how to lift the ball right now, a little bit more of a flat out. But if he can lift it, he's 6'1". His power stands out more than his hitting. To be honest, he's able to drive that ball. He's got 55 power grade. 6'1" frame, runs about on average. He throws actually as well. Fastball and a slider, topping out at 96 with a solid changeup. 6'1", like I said, out of Westland Christian Academy in North Carolina, the number 26 guy on this list. He's an option also for the Tigers at number 34 if he's able to fall. Same thing with the next guy we'll talk about. 210 pounds, 6'1", 50 heading, 55 power, 50 run, 65 arm, 50 fielding, and then the 50 overall. Our next guy, Sean Gamble, another 19-year-old out of high school, which could help this guy fall a little bit. Out of IMG Academy, left-handed hitter, right-handed throwing, second base and outfield, the number 27 guy on the MLB Top 250. 19 years old, 6'1", 188 pounds, 55 hitting, 50 run, 55 or 50 power, 55 run, 55 arm, 50 fielding, and a 50 overall. Sean Gamble is a left-handed hitter with smooth, repeatable swing who excels his making contact and hitting to all fields. He's able to do that very well. If he can get stronger and get out there, he's a Vanderbilt recruit. He can his extra base ability. He's got great extra base ability. He's got solid running. I would say it's above average running or about average, but he could be a great fielder at shortstop too. Right now he's a second baseman outfielder. He can play shortstop, outfield, second base. There's kind of all of the above, really. But he's a great defender, and if he doesn't sign, like I said, he's could go to Vanderbilt. Real similar to Bryson Stott, who's on the Phillies. Our last guy, Devin Taylor, who had potential top 5 pick at the beginning of the season. 21 years old, out of the University of Indiana. Left-handed hitter, right-handed thrower, out of the outfield. Right-handed throw arm, I should say. 55 hitting, 60 power, 45 run, 45 arm, 45 field, 50 overall. He's really, he got tried out at center field, but he's really going to be a corner outfielder at the pro level. He's a left-handed hitter with plus potential for average and power, great bat speed and strength, hard hit to all fields. He's got improved plate discipline. He's got not good defense or arm at all. But there's potential. There's potential. Don't get me wrong. But that does it for the first round, guys. I mean, a couple guys there, options at 34 and 24. The Tigers hold 24, 34 at 62 and 98 in the MLB draft. And that's for Monday, or for Sunday, I should say, excuse me. And then on Monday, we'll recap a little bit of who the Tigers ended up going with in the first 3 rounds. And then we'll talk about on Tuesday, the rounds 4 through 20. But that's $3.7 million is the pick value there at 24. And then at 34, the Tigers have a $2.8 million pick value. I'll explain the pick value a little bit. So each team ends up with their own pick value, right? So the Detroit Tigers, or each pick has its own pick value. So if you pick number 1, you get like $8.5 million or something like that. That's the expected. And each team has a pool they get to spend on their draft picks. And if you go over that, then you have to obviously face a fee of some sort. And so, teams, that's where it's really not like who's the best available like it is in the MLB or in the NBA and the NFL and the NBA. It's really about how do you strategically play with this money, quote unquote. And that's why high school bats tend to be a little bit less or more. It really just depends on who you are as a player and if you've shown that pro potential. And if you're a guy like, say, Ethan Holiday, expect to go number 1 or number 2. Him and what's his name? Cade Anderson. They're both supposed to go 1 and 2. If, say, for whatever reason, Jackson Holiday drops to 4 to the Colorado Rockies, The Rockies end up are going to be paying over slot value because Ethan Holiday was supposed to be the number one overall pick or the number two overall pick, and he dropped all the way to four. So that's, and the Tigers, Max Clark a couple years ago, I think they played undervalue for that one. And then Wyatt Langford went to Texas. Texas had to pay overvalue for that one. Just a little bit of a confusing. Really in the pick number 34, though. Quentin Young, the number 37 prospect in the top two, 53rd baseman and outfielder. He's a nephew of Dimitri and Delman Young, 18 years old out of Oaks Christian in California, 18 years old, 6'6" frame, 225 pounds. Not great hitting at 45. He's got 60 power, 50 run, 65 arm, 50 field, and a 55 overall. There's a solid option for the Tigers at 34. Riley Quick, a college arm out of Alabama. He's 38. Tate Southstein, shortstop, outfielder out of Basic Nevada High School. And then Anthony Ianson out of LSU is an arm. Really, between Riley Quick and Ianson, Quick will probably end up going before just that fastball slider combination. 60 grade on both of those, a 50 on his change, 45 control makes him a 50 overall. And then Ianson, 50 overall, 55 curveball, or 50 fastball, I should say. 55 curveball, 65 on the slider, 50 changeup, 50 control, and then 50 overall. And then Tate Sorensen, the 39th ranked in the top two, 50. Shortstop outfielder, righty. 18 years old, 5'11 frame, 180, 50 hitting, 50 power, 60 run, 50 arm, 55 field, and 50 overall. Those are all four options for the Tigers at 34. But like I said, Josh Hammond, Sean Gamble, Devin Taylor, those three guys all have potential to drop down there to 34 for the Tigers to pick them as well. Pick value is just over $2.8 million for the Tigers at number 34. At number 24, last couple players picked. Cameron Caminti was the last guy there. And then Nico Horner, Tanner Houck, Walker Buehler, all those guys having success in the MLB, picked at number 24. That's our MLB draft preview. We'll get into our insane pitching matchups for this weekend. Skubal versus Castillo, Mize versus Kirby, and Flaherty versus Gilbert. Tigers won the series 2-1 back in April. For game one, it's Tariq Skubal. We've talked about how great he is. He takes on Luis Castillo. Skubal comes in with a 10-2 record. Castillo 5-5. If you remember back all the way back in April and May, Skubal made that started the season 0-2. Colt Keith with a couple what should have been errors ended up ruled as a Skubal loss. Unfortunate there. Skubal 10-0 ever since then. 2.02 ERA with a .81 WHIP. 116 innings of work. 80 hits allowed, 148 strikeouts to 14 walks, and then 8 home runs allowed. Those are Tariq Skubal stats. Almost 150 strikeouts to 15 walks. That is just an outrageous number. Luis Castillo 5-5, 3.31 ERA, 1.22 WHIP, 103 innings pitched, 94 hits allowed, 87 strikeouts to 32 walks, and 12 home runs allowed. My home run pick, Dylan Dingler versus right-handed pitching. He's got 6 home runs and 24 RBIs. He's my home run pick for game one. Game two, Casey Mize versus George Kirby. George Kirby 3-4 with a 4.22 ERA. Casey Mize 9-2. The All-Star Casey Mize 2.63 ERA with a 1.18 WHIP. 85 innings of work for Casey Mize, 49 for George Kirby. 73 strikeouts to 21 walks for Casey Mize, 50 strikeouts to 9 walks for George Kirby. 7 home runs allowed for Kirby, only 11 allowed for Casey Mize. That's an all-star Casey Mize. Who's going to go deep off George Kirby, though? It's going to be Riley Green. Riley Green is crushing right-handed pitching. 21 of his 22 home runs now, 54 RBIs, 302 average, 611 slugging, which makes him a 957 OPS. Are you serious? He's just mashing right-handed pitching, and it'll be another righty in game 3. That'll end up being Jack Flaherty, who will take on Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert, obviously had the last couple seasons really good. Jack Flaherty struggling this season. 2-3 Gilbert is with a 3.88 ERA. Flaherty 5-9 with a 4.7 ERA. Flaherty obviously had a really good outing against the Rays. Really good watch there from Jack Flaherty. He's got a 1.24 whip. Logan Gilbert with a 1.02. 55 innings of work for Gilbert, 95 for Flaherty. 81 hits for Flaherty, 44 for Logan Gilbert allowed, 79 strikeouts to 13 walks, 9 home runs for Gilbert, and then 117 strikeouts to 38 walks and 17 home runs allowed. The Mariners are one of the teams that rival the Detroit Tigers for having one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. But the Tigers able to avoid Brian Wu. But Colt Keith, I think, is going to go deep in game three. All of his home runs, that's 8 home runs versus right-handed pitching. 290 average with a .372 OBP and a .5 or a .475 slugging with a .867 OPS. We'll talk a little bit more, a couple other things to noteworthy. The Nationals, who hold the number one overall pick, they just fired Mike Rizzo and their Martinez, and Dave Martinez. Mike Rizzo and Dave Martinez both fired right there. They own the number one overall pick. Interesting to see what they do there. Automatic balls and strikes. They're going to be used in the All-Star game. Interesting to see how that has an effect and if MLB decides to change their mind on if they should use that and when it will go into effect. Gleyber Torres, he doubled the other day. He got a 22 game on a base streak. That's the longest of his career, ties the longest of his career. Last August, he had one with the Yankees, and he has the longest streak in the MLB. The Tigers are 52-0 when leading after 8 innings this year. Amazing what this bullpen's been able to do in the back end of it, playing amazing baseball. And then I want to talk about a little bit, the last thing we'll talk about is the national TV schedule in the future. The Tigers tonight are on Apple TV. July 20th, they'll be on ESPN. August 7th or 16th, they'll be on Fox. August 22nd on Apple TV, and then August 30th versus Kansas City on Fox. Here's a couple games that could be Sunday Night Baseball. They play the Phillies August 1st through the 3rd. That could be either ESPN or a Fox game. And then September 19th through the 21st, where they take on Atlanta. We know how ESPN is about those AL or NL East teams. They love them and are able to always put them on national TV. And the Tigers are a team that has been played a little bit on national TV, and they have played very well. But that does it for this episode of Full Count Detroit. We thank you all for listening and have a wonderful Friday and an amazing weekend.